welcome to the deep dive. Okay, let's unpack this Finland thing. You hear it all the time, right? Small Nordic nation, consistently lauded, one of the best education systems globally. But what really makes it tick? Today we're diving deep into the innovative stuff they're doing, the educational practices setting them apart. We're not just looking at what they do, but, why it seems to work so well. And maybe, just maybe, how some of these ideas might spark something elsewhere. We've got a great stack of sources to draw from. Tech Class, Pasi Sahlberg, insights from CoSN, European SchoolNet, and we'll even touch on perspectives from places like Denmark, Japan, and Singapore. It should be good.
Yeah, and what's really striking, I think, is that it's less about a checklist of tricks and more about a whole foundational philosophy. It's very student-centric, focus on creativity, collaboration, solving actual real-world problems, not just cramming for tests like you see in so many other places. And they manage this excellence, this high quality, without breaking the bank. It's built on these pillars.
Yeah.
Equity, flexibility, creativity, real teacher professionalism, and overarching everything, trust. Just deep trust.
That's a strong start. Foundational belief system.
Oh.
Okay, let's talk about that foundation then. Finland's journey from mostly agrarian to this, model knowledge economy. It's pretty amazing. How did education play such a central role in that shift?
Well, it was a very conscious decision. You see, back when lots of countries were jumping on the market-driven reform bandwagon, standardization, high-stakes testing everywhere, Finland went, maybe not. They chose a different route, something they call intelligent accountability and trust-based professionalism.
Yeah.
Education was deliberately positioned as the engine for transforming society, moving from that agrarian base in the 50s towards, the knowledge hub it is now.
Intelligent accountability, trust-based professionalism. It sounds almost radically different from systems driven by constant oversight. So if trust is the cornerstone, let's talk about the teachers. What makes them so effective? They're clearly central to this.
Oh, absolutely central. And it starts right from the beginning with their training. It's incredibly rigorous. Every single teacher, it's not just encouraged, it's mandatory to have a master's degree in education.
A master's for every teacher.
Every single one. And getting into those university programs, super selective. We're talking maybe only 10% of applicants get accepted each year. The training itself is heavily research-based, lots of practical classroom time too, like at places like Oulu Normaaliikoulu. It equips them not just with methods, but empowers them to be truly autonomous professionals. And the result, you get stats like over 90% of Finnish teachers feel confident tailoring their teaching to individual kids' needs. That's huge.
Wow. Okay, that level of training, that confident, it must breed a lot of freedom in the classroom. How does this culture of trust actually look day to day? How does it play out for teachers and students?
It means the system fundamentally runs on trust, not top-down control. Think about it. No school inspectors doing frequent drop-ins. No constant barrage of external evaluations. Teachers have significant freedom to choose how they teach, how they deliver their lessons. And that freedom, it leads to more engaging, more dynamic learning. You look at a school like Risu Lukio in Helsinki, teachers there can design their own interdisciplinary courses. A 2021 report actually found 87% of Finnish teachers believe their autonomy directly boosts student engagement. And this wasn't just, something that happened in easy times. This trust culture really proved itself during the major economic crisis in the 90s. The government basically said, we trust the local schools, the local teachers, to figure out the best way forward.
That's incredible. Trust is a source of resilience. And it sounds like this trust is also deeply connected to their commitment to equity. What does equal opportunity actually mean in a Finnish school?
It means try to remove pretty much every barrier. Education is completely free. And I mean from early childhood, daycare, all the way through university.
Free meaning?
Meaning no tuition fees, obviously. But also free school meals, good, nutritious ones too. Free textbooks, materials, even free transportation if you live a certain distance away.
So financial barriers are just gone.
Largely, yes. And beyond the money, there's this huge focus on inclusive education. Special ed teachers, learning support specialists, they don't operate in silos. They work directly with the classroom teachers inside the regular classroom as much as possible. Look at Karjala School in Hämeenlinna. They keep something like over 95% of kids with learning difficulties right there in the mainstream classes. It builds collaboration, reduces stigma, makes everyone feel part of the same community.
Okay, so we have this bedrock. Trust, highly trained, autonomous teachers, real equity. Now let's step inside the classroom. What does the actual learning look like day to day? This is where it gets really interesting, isn't it?
Exactly. This is where that philosophy translates into practice, into these innovative approaches.
One I always find fascinating is phenomenon-based learning. Can you unpack that a bit? How does it change things?
Sure. Phenomenon-based learning, or PBL, it basically throws out the old, rigid subject boundaries. Instead of having separate classes for, say, physics, then geography, then economics, students tackle complex, real-world phenomena, things like climate change, or maybe sustainable cities, or even something like the human brain.
So how would that work? Like a project on renewable energy?
Exactly. A project on renewable energy might naturally bring in the physics of solar panels, the geography of yen patterns or resource location, the economics of different energy sources, maybe even the politics or social aspects. It's hands-on, it's interdisciplinary, and because students are grappling with real issues, it really develops critical thinking, problem solving. And frankly, it's just more engaging. They see the point.
Right, it connects the dots. Now, another big difference people talk about, homework. Or the lack of it. Finnish kids famously get very little, sometimes none at all. What's the thinking there?
Yeah, that often surprises people. The thinking, especially in the primary years, is that the school day is for learning, efficiently. The homework load is deliberately kept light. Why? To reduce stress, number one, but also to promote a healthier balance. Time for family, for hobbies, for play, for just being a kid. It values the whole child, not just the student part.
So it's not about being lazy, it's a conscious choice about well-being and maybe even deeper learning.
Precisely. The belief is that intrinsic motivation thrives when kids aren't constantly burdened. And you know what? The data often backs it up. Studies show these kids with less homework often do just as well or even better academically than kids overloaded with assignments.
Okay, and it's not just what they learn or how much homework, but where they learn. Tell me about their learning spaces. They're not typical classrooms, are they?
No, often not. They really focus on flexible, dynamic environments. You see more open learning areas, comfy seating options, adaptable furniture, even natural elements like plants indoors. The idea is that learning isn't static. Students should be able to move, work in groups easily, find a quiet corner to work alone. It's about facilitating different kinds of learning.
Like that Sanalati school in Espoo people talk about.
Exactly like Sonalati.
Yeah.
Glass walls, communal hubs. It physically opens up the space to encourage collaboration and creativity. Feels less like a factory, more like a workshop or a studio.
And what about technology? In this digital age, are they all screens or is there a balance?
There's definitely a balance, and it seems very thoughtful. They integrate tech seamlessly where it makes sense. Interactive whiteboards? Sure. AI tools for personalized feedback? Yes, you see that, like at Caliola School in Tampere. But, and this is key, they haven't thrown out the low-tech stuff. There's still a strong emphasis on foundational skills. Handwriting, reading physical books, doing hands-on science experiments. Places like Vicky Teacher Training School really model this. It's about creating well-rounded students who are digitally literate but also grounded in those fundamental tactile skills.
Okay, and the big one for many systems, assessment, standardized testing. Finland pretty much opts out, right? How do they know how kids are doing?
Right. They largely avoid national standardized tests. It's a huge difference. Instead, it's all about the teacher's assessment. Continuous formative assessment, checking understanding along the way, projects, portfolios, presentations, and lots of individualized feedback.
So no big high-stakes exams looming over everyone.
Generally, no, especially not in the early years. And this creates a much less stressful environment. The focus shifts. Kids are motivated to learn, not just to pass the test. You see it in the numbers. 93% of Finnish students say they feel motivated. Compare that to the average of 78% in other developed countries. It's significant. And get this, numerical grades are actually prohibited by law before 5th grade. Before that, it's all descriptive feedback, focusing on progress and effort.
No grades before 5th grade. Wow. And you mentioned anxiety earlier.
Yeah, the impact on things like math anxiety is staggering. Finnish kids report around 7% feeling anxious about math. In Japan, it's like 52%, France 53%. That lack of constant testing pressure seems to make a huge difference psychologically.
That difference is just stark. It really makes you think. And this whole student-centered approach starts super early, with play being central.
Absolutely fundamental. Early childhood education is play-based. The understanding is simple. Young kids learn best when they're exploring, creating, interacting socially. It's not just babysitting. It's intentionally building those crucial cognitive, social, and emotional foundations through play. European SchoolNet even points out that playful learning is beneficial at all ages, helping build creativity, resilience, well-being, especially against modern pressures.
So like outdoor learning and things like that.
Exactly. Places like Pilk Daycare Center, lots of outdoor time, exploring nature. It's a holistic view of development from day one.
And this focus carries through. Even into higher education, students seem to take more ownership.
Definitely. University classrooms aren't just lectures. Students are expected to be active participants, lead discussions, do independent research. Methods like the case study approach are really common, especially in fields like, say, digital business innovation. It forces students to tackle real problems, hone their presentation skills, think critically. They even have things like student-led study circles, where peers teach each other. It builds collaboration, time management, and assessment reflects this. It's not just exams, it's presentations, quizzes, group projects, discussions, evaluating the whole package: knowledge, skills, confidence, even ethics.
Okay, so we've painted this picture of Finland, trust, teachers, equity, these really innovative classroom practices. But let's zoom out. How do these ideas compare or contrast when we look globally? Does this stuff work elsewhere, or is it unique to Finland?
That's the crucial next step, isn't it? Putting Finland in context. Comparing their approach with strategies in other interesting education systems around the world.
Right. Like KSN, the Consortium for School Networking, they sent people to Norway and Finland. Trust was a huge takeaway for them too, wasn't it? What did they observe?
Yeah, they really highlighted how trust and responsibility just permeate the systems in both countries. They saw it empowering teachers, really giving that control back to the educators. They also noted the shift towards formative, real-time assessment data, the big investment in early childhood, and this focus on cultivating those future-ready skills: collaboration, communication, creativity, critical thinking, and importantly, fostering student agency, letting students take more charge of their learning.
Okay, interesting. What about Denmark? They're also known for focusing on innovation, but maybe driven by something different.
That's a good comparison. Denmark explicitly links educational innovation to national competitiveness. The goal is very much about shaping innovative individuals who can boost the economy. So you see things like promoting entrepreneurship in schools, making innovation a theme across subjects, really trying to turn knowledge into, valuable products or services. Their big 2013 folk school reform also brought in things like a longer school day, more structured activities, more physical exercise.
But it's not all smooth sailing there either.
No, they face challenges. Sometimes the push for innovation clashes with existing ways of measuring achievement. And, like anywhere, getting all teachers fully on board with new ways of doing things takes time. Traditional practices can be persistent.
All right, let's hop over to Asia. Singapore. Everyone talks about Singapore maths. How does their approach to innovation compare?
Singapore maths is fascinating because it's also about deep understanding, but maybe more structured. It's focused on mastery for everyone. The idea is fewer topics, but covered in much greater depth, really nailing number sense, place value, problem solving. Challenge comes from going deeper, not faster.
And they have that specific method, the CPA thing.
Exactly. Concrete, pictorial, abstract. Start with actual objects kids can touch, move to visual models like bar diagrams, and only then introduce the abstract numbers and symbols. It's a very deliberate progression to build solid understanding. Its roots go way back to the 80s, and ideas from Jerome Bruner.
Okay, one more stop. Japan, often seen as technologically advanced. What's innovation look like in their schools, and what hurdles do they face?
Japan has some really interesting things going on. CLIL, content and language integrated learning, teaching subjects through English, for instance. They're also using games, both digital and even tabletop board games like Pandemic, believe it or not, to teach about complex global issues. And cool cross-generational language programs connecting students with older community members. There's also this interesting concept of collaborative social learning, encouraging interaction, helping each other, where even asking for help is seen as a sign of competence, not weakness.
But challenges exist there too.
Oh, definitely. There can be a sort of built-in conservatism in some parts of the system, especially universities, that makes change slow. And like many places, ensuring teachers get the right training for new methods, like teaching English effectively as a global language, ELF, is a constant need.
Okay, so we've seen Finland's approach, compared it globally. Let's tie this together. Finland seems incredibly successful based on what you've said. But how does it actually stack up? And is this model, sustainable in the long run?
Right. Let's look at the outcomes in the bigger picture. What does all this add up to, and can they keep it going?
So first off, the results. What are the tangible outcomes of doing things the Finnish way?
Well, you look at the international scoreboards, like PISA, the Program for International Student Assessment. Finland is consistently right up there at the top. Across the board, really math, reading, science, even newer things like collaborative problem solving, they excel. But here's something maybe even more impressive. The variance between schools is tiny. Performance differences are much more about individual student aptitude than which school you happen to attend or your family background. That speaks volumes about equity.
High scores and high equity, that's the dream, isn't it? And how does the cost factor in?
That's the kicker. They achieve these world-class results with education spending that's actually pretty modest, roughly around the OECD average. In fact, spending as a percentage of their GDP has even gone down slightly over some periods while results stayed high.
So top performance at an average cost, that's efficient.
Incredibly efficient. It really challenges the idea that you have to spend massively more to get better results.
Which leads to a huge question. Is this success down to one specific reform, some kind of magic bullet that others could just copy? Or is it something else?
Yeah, everyone wants the magic bullet, don't they? But the consensus is no, it's not one thing. It's more about what researchers call sustainable leadership. It's been this long, steady process of continually adjusting the school system to meet society's changing needs, but without ditching their core values like equity, like putting learning first. They've been focused on learning before teaching since way back in the 60s. This stability, this consistency, it gives teachers the space and freedom to actually hone their craft rather than constantly reacting to the latest top-down initiative. It's evolution, not constant disruptive revolution.
That makes sense. But okay, we see Finland topping these PISA charts. There's always debate about those rankings, though, isn't there? What do they really measure?
Absolutely, that's a valid and ongoing debate. PISA, KIMS, these different international tests, they define and measure achievement in slightly different ways. PISA leans more towards applying knowledge to real-life situations. TIMS might be closer to traditional curriculum mastery. It's also really important to note how Finland gets these results. Unlike some other high-performing countries, say Korea or Japan, there isn't a massive industry of private tutoring or shadow education propping up the scores. And maybe most importantly, the Finnish definition of achievement is just broader. It's not only about academics. It includes developing the whole person, their personality, their social skills, their moral compass.
A holistic view. Got it. So finally, looking ahead, even Finland must face challenges, right? What's on the horizon for them? Is it all smooth sailing?
No system is perfect, and Finland faces pressures too. There was that productivity program back in the mid-2000s from the Ministry of Education. It aimed to introduce more measurements, more standards, and it definitely raised concerns among educators. They worried that too much focus on efficiency metrics might start to erode resources or chip away at that equity-focused quality.
So a potential tension between efficiency and the core values.
Exactly. It's an ongoing balancing act. But despite those pressures, the foundations, those highly trained, respected teachers, the generally motivated students, the supportive parents who trust the system, that foundation still seems incredibly solid.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive. Exploring Finland and then seeing it alongside other approaches globally, it really highlights how these innovative practices, when they're built on that solid ground of trust and genuine respect for teachers and students, can create something special, an environment where, a love for learning can actually flourish.
It really does. Finland's story is a powerful reminder, I think. Prioritizing the whole child, empowering your educators, really committing to equity. It can lead to outstanding results. And interestingly, often more efficiently than systems built purely on control and relentless testing.
So the big takeaway for everyone listening, maybe consider this. If one system can achieve top global results while actively fostering creativity, collaboration, well-being, reducing stress, and placing immense trust of its skilled professionals, what small shifts, or maybe big ones, could we think about in our own contexts? How could we work towards cultivating that deeper, maybe more joyful, and definitely more equitable love for learning? Something to think about.